Black.
Brady Black. By all means, arrest him. Your baby daddy. But something tells me you knew exactly what was going on. There's no need for that.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I'll be doing another episode recap of today's Daysofourlives, August 27, 2024. So we get back into the scene where Brady catches Tate and Holly, right? Because they were about to go back to the cabin after, Tate got checked out for a sprained ankle. So, they run into Brady because, remember earlier Kristen was telling Brady to go look for Sarah, offer her his sympathy and all that to kind of get rid of his guilt. Right. So anyways, he's like surprised. He's like, what are you doing there? How he's like, he sprained his ankle. So he's like, how did you sprain your ankle at camp? But either way, hold on. Wouldn't the camp inform me about this? Like, how did this happen? So, he's like, at this point, he just comes clean and said that I haven't really been to lacrosse camp. I was here with Holly the whole time, kicking it at the Horton cabin. And, Brady is livid at this point. And, he tries to explain himself. He's like, we wouldn't be in this predicament because, if mom was just not, overly strict and all that, we wouldn't be here, right? So anyways, he asks Holly to just give them some time to talk. So she leaves and he begins to he's like, how could you do this? How could I trusted you to do so. So he's like, I just really wanted to be with Holly for the summer and you guys are not making it easy. And Aaron went in my place, so it wasn't wasted. So he was just trying to make a case for himself. And Brady was, for the most part, he was disappointed and angry, but then because of what's going on with him and him feeling bad about him possibly hurting Sarah, he's not really focused on what Tate is saying, and Tate is like trying to get his attention, and he's just still distracted about it. So Tate asked him a question about, weren't you young one time, like didn't you do something that you completely regretted, but you did it because you cared about a certain person? So Brady started to think about his conversation with Kristen and all that happened before. So he was just really not really there, right? So anyways, we go back to them in a bit. Let's go to the next scene. So we go to Sarah and Maggie, right? Because Sarah is still concerned that Xander has not shown up back from looking for Victoria, and she's worried that he's gonna take out his anger on the wrong person, get in some trouble that he really doesn't need at this point. And so she's just worried, right? So Maggie begins to tell her about how she understands where Xander is coming from because she dealt with an accident back in the day, and her anger, she was really angry about it. Sometimes she wished she died with the person. I couldn't catch if it was Daniel or another relative, but she just said she wanted to die with the person. She was angry at the person that did it for a while, so she understands where Xander was coming from. So Sarah also talks about the fact that she's just worried about if she will ever walk again, if she'll be able to be the mother that she needs to be for Victoria, and she's just emotional about it. And Maggie just reassures her that she is an awesome person, she's a great daughter, a mom, wife. So she just tries to give her that vote of confidence at this point, right? So anyways, we go on to the next scene. So speaking of Xander, on yesterday's episode, Jada begins to tell him that, they have a prime suspect and they're looking into it. So he asked her, who was the prime suspect. So she's like, she can't really tell him, she's not at liberty to tell him. So he's like, how so? Because this has to do with my wife. Like, how come I can't know about it? She's like, this is police investigation. Like, you gotta let me do my job. So she proceeds to walk off, and then Xander just holds onto her arm really strongly. And I'm like, Xander, really? It's not that deep for you to like hold on to the lady like that. So anyways, she's like, he's like, I really need to know, like, where you think you're going. So she's like, the longer I'm here, the less time I can focus on this case. And, I understand, I get it, that you're frustrated, you're angry. And he's like, no, you don't. So she's like, yes, I do, because Rafe is in a bed, he's comatose. Like, I get it. Like, I get it when the person you love is helpless, you can't help them, and the person that did it to them is still on the loose. So it's like she gets it. So anyways, he calms down and he apologizes for his behavior, and he's like, if you if you can you at least tell me that you're going to go ahead with the investigation or the leads or whatever. So she said yes, so I will inform you when that is all wrapped up. So anyways, we go on to the next scene. So go over to Marlena's, and Marlena is still thinking about the whole encounter with Jada, and Brady not telling her about the stolen car. So she's just thinking real heavily about it until John comes in, and he's back apparently from a trip to see his father, and she asked how that went, and he said it was okay. So then she begins to tell him about her encounter with Jada, and Brady's car got stolen. So he's like, how and when that did happen, because she said she didn't really know about it, and he didn't know about it either. So it's just they're just talking about how Brady's acting strange, and he's like, listen, an acting commissioner really investigating deeply into a grand theft auto, like, it don't make no sense. Like, it must be leading to a bigger picture. So, she's like, they're wondering, he puts the clues together, and he's like, they're trying to pin Brady to the whole Sarah case, and he's like, listen, the only way this could happen is if Brady was drunk. So, he already trying to figure out the whole cause of this. So, Marlena did tell John her suspicions about Brady, because she didn't ask him directly, but she asked Paul, and he's been struggling with the whole Teresa thing. So, she believes that, he's in serious danger. He needs help. So he's like, you know what? This is my son. I really need to talk to him face to face and confront him about this. So he did try to call him, but he didn't get through. So they're really worried about what's going on with Brady at this point. So Kristen is at the DeMere mansion, and she's talking to the portrait of Stefano about her elaborate plan to get Brady out of this mess. She was talking to the person who actually destroyed the car, so they can't find any evidence of the car that Brady was driving. So she was there just, talking about her plan, and EJ comes in, and EJ is like, talking to the portrait again. What are you up to this time? So she's like, I'll just, she was just talking about protecting the family legacy, because she had to fire Ava, and she had to do what's best for the business and keep Gabby Chic around, So Steph EJ is like, I'm not really buying this. I think it has more to do with other family members, like your baby father, Brady. So, she was just laughing about it. She's like, don't you have nothing else to do? And he's like, yeah, I do. But, I just couldn't help myself to come in and eavesdrop and see what's going on. So what is it, right? So they did get interrupted by Jada. So we'll talk about that in a scene later. So we go back to Brady and Tate, and we see Xander come in, and Xander is like, Tate, what are you doing here? I thought you were away for the summer. So he's like, no, I, decided to come back in. He didn't really tell him what happened. But anyways, Tate says that he's sorry for what happened to Sarah and hope that they really find the person responsible. So Xander begins to tell the both of them that there is a prime suspect, there is a lead. So hopefully they nail him or her for what happened, and Tate is just agreeing with it as well. And Brady's just there, not saying a word. He's just really feeling guilty at this point, right? So Xander goes off to see Sarah, and Brady and Tate, they're just there talking. He's still talking about, what he, just trying to get through to Brady, and Brady is just not listening to him anymore. So he did get a text from Kristen, but I will talk about that later on, and he had to run out, and he told Tate to ice the ankle, and, asked him if Holly could take him home and all that, acting all weird, and Tate just doesn't know what's going on, so he just leaves him there, right? So anyways, we go on to the next scene. So we go back to Holly, right? Because she went over to Sarah's room where Maggie was. So, Sarah's like, 2 times in one day, am I lucky? So she's like, it wasn't because of that, but she just wanted to tell the truth to Maggie about her actually going to see Tate at the cabin instead of, what she already told Maggie, which was she was going to hang out with a friend, but it was actually to hang out with Tate, and that she's been hanging out with Tate the whole summer, and she just sorry that she had to lie to Maggie about that. So Maggie was like, oh, so that's why I couldn't find the key. So she's like, huh, what happened? So Maggie proceeds to tell her that on the night of, Sarah and Xander's wedding, the honeymoon, they wanted to go honeymoon at the cabin, but she couldn't find the key, the key. So Sarah, Holly was like, what day was that? So, they didn't really want to tell her, but, Maggie said, it was on the night after her accident. So Holly begins to feel guilty, and she's like, oh my gosh, did I cause this? This is all my fault. So, Sarah is like, no, it's not your fault. It's the driver's. And she's like, I just really don't feel well at this point. I really need to get out of here, right? Because she's feeling guilty about her, her actually causing this to happen, and she didn't have the key. This accident would have happened, but they tried to calm her down, but she ran out of there, and she catch up with Tate, and she's like, Tate, this is our fault. Like, we caused this whole accident to happen. So anyways, we see Xander come in right after Holly busted out, and he's like, what did I just miss? So we see him come in, and, they proceed to tell him about, Holly feeling bad about actually having the Horton cabin key and the whole thing with Tate. So anyways, he's like, he doesn't feel any way towards Holly because it's not really her fault. It's the driver. So Sarah also agrees. So anyways, he tells them both that, there's a prime suspect, and, Sarah's asking, who is it? So he's like, Jada didn't tell him, but hopefully they nab him, and, we get on with our lives, right? So we go back to the Dear Mary mansion, where Jada comes in the middle of EJ and Kristen having their conversation. So anyways, Kristen goes out, she's eavesdropping on their conversation. So Jada begins to tell EJ that, she found certain evidence, even though it's circumstantial, but it's pointing to Brady. So, he did ask who the suspect was, and she's like, she didn't really want to tell him, but then he's like, it might help the situation if, for him to really, call for the indictment. So anyway, she's like, it's Brady, and, should I go forward with arresting him? So he's like, make an arrest. So she's like, this sounds a lot more personal. So he's like, yeah, family have been battling for generations, but, this is strictly about, this is really, professional, right? It's nothing personal. And I'm like, EJ, please. So anyways, he allows her to go do that. And, as she's coming out, Kristen talks to her, right? So Kristen is saying, like, any leads, any prime suspects. So she is like, cut the BS, like, I knew you were eavesdropping, you already know, right? So Jada just leaves, and Kristen goes back in to talk to EJ, and EJ is like, seems like your baby daddy is gonna go down, and you already knew this, right? You already knew he was a part of this. So she had nothing to say at this point, right? But she did send a text message to Brady at that the police are after him, and he needs to run. He needs to get going, right? So yeah, she loyal to her baby father, so. So Jada is on the phone, and she's telling two officers to, organize the arrest warrant, right? So before she gets to do that, Brady just turns himself in, and he's like, no need to do that. I am here. So I guess we'll see what happens on tomorrow's episode, if Brady is really going to go down for this. But Lord, Brady just can't catch a break. But I blame him for this, because it's like, he needed to sober up, and he shouldn't have lost it over Teresa. And another thing, nobody cares about what happened to Belinda. Kristen not thinking what happened to her lawyer. Like, we need to know. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow for an all-new recap. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment about today's episode. I will see you guys tomorrow. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.